Spencer screen. There's Barrett for the ball.
It's in.
Wide open.
Duke returns to action Saturday at 7 o'clock at Cameron against Florida State. And for me, the most memorable game against Florida State the past few years is that Cam Reddish game winner where it felt like Duke was going to lose. RJ splits the free throws at the end of the game. The ball ends up going off Florida State. Duke gets the ball. The inbound play is, I think, set up to go to RJ. He's covered. Cam is wide open. He hits the shot. I remember that one clear as day because I was in San Jose at the time. You were back in New York, and setting up I think I was setting up my apartment or something. I don't remember, but that was a ton of fun to watch that game. It's been the past couple of years haven't been quite the same with the Florida State Duke game. But Coach Hamilton, he's looking for his 200th win. This Florida State team is 16-12, 7-9, heading against Duke, who is now 25-3 and 16-1 in conference play. So I think it could be a good game, depending on how a couple of injuries shake out, which we won't necessarily know until Saturday who's going to be available and who won't be. But JD, before we get started, I just have to say I screwed up as a son. I should have said happy birthday Tuesday night after the Miami game. Happy birthday. It was a big win by Duke. So happy belated birthday to let all of our listeners and watchers know it was your birthday on Tuesday.
I think that, in the scheme of things, it was very nice of Duke to schedule a game on my birthday because it was, honestly, I guess there's a few other things that would be more fun, but watching Duke in another beatdown was pretty good too so that kind of rounded it off. But thank you for saying it. And, you get older, you're supposed to enjoy each one. So I truly enjoyed it and it was great. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so this matchup with Florida State, I think the first thing we got to talk about before I get into the Florida State team is the Proctor injury. I think based off of the news we got from Mrs. Proctor on Twitter, he is going to be okay. I think he will return this season, but I do not believe it will be this Saturday.
Definitely not this Saturday based on Coach Shire's comments. So what Shire said was, the last thing I saw was it was a bone injury and not any of the, like an ACL or a hyperextension or anything else. And Shire was confident that he would get him back this season, but it may not be, it's certainly not going to be Saturday night, and it may be a week or two. As he put it, it depends on Proctor's pain threshold, because he's going to have to work through it. And I think Proctor will, and I'm okay. I'm okay with the balance of the season. I've kind of worked out how I want the lineups to go and all that. But so I think we're okay on that injury. Any update on Malik Brown?
When I tried to do some digging, I haven't found anything recent. It's been about six days to a week since the most recent article on Malik that I could find. So I'm going to go. I know there were some people in the chat that thought he could be back this Saturday. I'm going to go under the assumption that he will not be back, certainly this Saturday, and maybe not until, as we said, I think originally the ACC tournament would be a little bit more optimistic.
I agree with you. And, I think, can we give him a rest? Going against Florida State, and it'll be interesting when you go player by player because they, overall 16-12, 12, and they may be 7-10, not 7-9, because they may have played 17 games, but lost their last two. They're going into Cameron. I have all sorts of ideas for how the lineup can go, and I'm okay with it for the final three games of the season so that we give Proctor and Malik Brown rest. And as Lawrence Friedman would say, sure like to come out of the next game without another injury. So let's rest the two guys. Let's get them back, and we'll talk about the lineups. So,
Yep.
Jack, what do you think? So what do we have to worry about with Florida State?
Okay, first off, you are right. They are 7-10 in conference play. Good correction. And before I get into Florida State, just want to spend 30 seconds to a minute here on Coach Hamilton, who this will be his last season at the helm of Florida State. And I've always really respected, him and his program at Florida State, along with Coach Larinaga at Miami. And so we've got, along with Tony Bennett, a big changing of the guard in terms of the coaches at the ACC level. And Coach Hamilton, I think he's been a great coach throughout his tenure. He's built up this Florida State program. They've been really good under him, and he's looking for his 200th ACC win this Saturday against Duke. I don't think he'll get it, but I think he will get it by the end of this ACC schedule. Now, Florida State, as always, they're a tall team. They don't necessarily have the 7-footers and 7-foot-plus guys that they have had in the past, but they are the second tallest team in college basketball, only behind Duke. They are the 87th ranked team in KenPom overall. They're 120th on offense, and they're about 68th on defense. So it makes sense with the Leonard Hamilton coach team. They're a better defensive team than they are offensive team. And they are led by, certainly, Jamir Watkins, who is a 6'6", 6'7" wing, 210 pounds. He's a senior transfer from VCU. This is his second year with Florida State. And all the stats for today, like they have been of late, are going to be from conference play. And he's averaging 18 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. And he's also connecting on about 34% of his threes on about 5 attempts per game. He does turn the ball over a bit, 3 turnovers per game. But he also is kind of in charge, along with the next guy who I'll get to in terms of really being the focal point of the Florida State offense.
I'm ready to, well, all right. I'm sort of ready to talk about the lineup. So why don't you finish off Florida State?
All right. So this is where it gets interesting because this Florida State team, I think, if Malik Ewan is healthy and available to go, could make this an interesting and competitive game against Duke. Ewan, in their last game against North Carolina, appeared to roll his ankle. He exited the game in a lot of pain, tried to come back into the game, lasted maybe about a minute, and then had to leave again. So I'm not sure if he'll be available. But Ewan is a 6'11", 230-pound center for Florida State, and he's their second leading guy on offense. It's really a 1-2 punch in terms of consistency, with Ewan being that second guy. He's averaging 15 points, 8 rebounds, and a couple assists, a steal, and a block. And for a guy his size, he doesn't shoot threes, but he's really efficient, 63% from the field. He can dribble, and he can pass. And it's a big loss if they don't have him. But if they do have him, he will present some problems for Duke with his ability to dribble and then also pass the ball across the court. Rounding out their starting lineup, they've got Taylor Bowen, who's a really intriguing guy for me as like a draft prospect. Not this year, but down the road. 6'10", 205 pounds, 9 points, 5 rebounds, a steal and a block. He's also their best 3-point shooter at 44% on 3 attempts per game. At the guard spots, they have Daquan Davis, a 6'1 guard, averages 9 points, 3 assists, and a steal per game. He's the smallest guy in their rotation. And also Chandler Jackson, who's 6'5", 205 pounds. Off the bench, they've got a number of guys. Coach Hamilton, if you follow the program, he likes to play 10 guys, sometimes 11. I'm going to rattle off some names here, and then I will mention a couple of guys who I think I'll highlight. So they've got Justin Thomas, 6'7", senior. Jerry Dang, a 6'9", sophomore. AJ Swinton, a 6'6", freshman. Boston Holt, a 6'7", grad student. Alir Malak, a 7-foot freshman. And Christian Nitu, a 6'11" freshman. So Jerry Dang is a guy who can get hot in a hurry. He averages 7 points a game, but he's had a handful of games where he's been in double figures, and he really likes to shoot the 3.5 attempts per game in only 13 minutes, connecting at about 35%, I should say. And then Malik, I can't read my own handwriting. I apologize. He's the cousin of actually a Bol, and Manute Bol is his uncle. He got extended playing time because Ewan was out against North Carolina. So if he's unavailable to go, I expect Alir to get more playing time along with Christian Nitu.
All right. Can I go to here's how I'd counter that team. Wait, you got one more thing you want to add?
Yeah, on the team itself, just a couple of things about Florida State, the team. So I went through the individual players, the team. They play at a high pace, like top 60 pace, which is interesting. Duke, as of late, has really liked to play at a high pace. I think we've picked up on that. So I'm not sure how that fares. However, part of the reason they do that is because if they make, especially a free throw, they like to press. And that is going to be something, especially in this game, without Proctor, how will some of the other guys respond to that press? Their guards don't shoot the 3 well, but some of the other guys do, like Bol Bowen, especially, and Dang. And they're a really good shot blocking team, like top 40 in the country. Obviously, with their size, that makes a lot of sense. Other than that, similar to Duke, they will switch 1 through 5 on defense. So that'll be something in terms of how Duke will look to hunt matchups against Florida State's defense. So those are all of my notes and thoughts here on the Florida State side of things. Go ahead with the Duke lineups.
Okay, so you've confirmed their size for me. And although it is not what Coach Shire did after Proctor was injured, because he brought in
Evans?
Yes.
Man, we gotta figure this one out. You know, it's the only guy.
We're almost done with the season, and I can't get Isaiah Evans. All right, so
he's gonna be playing in the NBA, and you still won't be able to get it.
That's probably true. So I think that what they need to do then is rely on the core freshmen, Flag, Knipple, Malawach, and then supplement them with their 2 strong transfer portal players, meaning Sion James and Mason Gillis. They need that should be the starting lineup. I don't want Isaiah Evans to start because this run he's on, everything that he's doing, he has sort of really enjoyed being the 6th man, especially with Malik Brown, who used to be the first guy in. So now, if they're not generating enough offense, although look for Cooper Flag to say, I guess I got to shoulder a little bit more tonight, and look for a big game from Cooper. Then if he's not getting offense, then he can bring in Isaiah Evans. Uh, Turnovers, I wouldn't be happy starting
Foster.
Foster. Yep, would not be happy there. Uh, Perfectly happy with Gangba getting minutes where he needs it, especially against big teams, being able to give Malawach a rest. Um, and then, given two major injuries, Darren Harris is going to have to get some minutes, and and it's going to be interesting to see, is he ready? Can he do it? Um, but that's how I see it. Uh, we're going to be fine at home. We're going to win. They don't have Cooper Flag. Last time I checked, we do. Con Knipple could have a good game. It will be tough to go to the alley oop with the size of Florida State, but we're big enough and we're strong enough. And I think that whether the first pass in, if they're pressing, goes to Cooper Flag, then that's it. We'll break the press. So that's how I see the ability to contend with both Malik Brown and Therese Proctor. They're not going to be in this game.
I agree. They will not be in this game. I do think Florida State has the size, um, and just the number of bodies that I'm curious how they will affect Cooper Flag, because Taylor Ball Bowen is a good defender. He's not like what we've seen in the past for guys who've given Cooper trouble. Feels like a strong word, but I guess made things a little bit more difficult is probably a more appropriate way of putting it. Like they tend to be shorter than Cooper, like 6'6", 6'7", and strong. And I'm not sure that they maybe Jamir Watkins, but it's not really when I watch him, it's not really like what he's known for. Um, so I agree. I think this could be a good Cooper game, or not a good Cooper game. They're all good Cooper games. A great Cooper game. And the thing I'm curious about, and you addressed it. I was going to ask you about this. I'm not so sure that Darren Harris is a part of the rotation. I think a lot will depend upon how Foster plays, because I think there's a world where Coach Shire leaves it at an 8-man rotation, and you've got. I'm not 100% certain if Gillis will start or come off the bench, but I like your idea of him starting. But it's those. Let's say he does start those 5, and then you have Evans, Foster, Gangba. That's your bench, and maybe Harris plays, maybe he doesn't. But he's certainly got a much better chance to play in this game against Florida State than he has the rest of the season. So I don't know. I think part of it could depend. I mean, certainly upon foul trouble, and then also, Florida State. The pace of this game, it could also mean that it makes sense for Coach Shire to go, one guy deeper to Darren Harris, because Florida State's playing 10 guys and he wants to keep his guys fresh. So there's it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that as much as I see Isaiah Evans coming off the bench to provide the spark, this is also, it's show up or just sit on the bench for Foster. He has come along in garbage time, and now he will be pressed into service earlier. And the biggest thing I'm going to be looking for is his ball control and turnover. And if we get points, that's great. But as long as he controls the game from bringing the ball up, passing it, not getting trapped, then I think he could get minutes. If that becomes a problem and there's, let's say, a little foul trouble, then I think Darren Harris is definitely getting 10 minutes to 12 minutes.
All right, all right. I'm gonna say he gets closer to 5 minutes. If
Clearly, you've already said he may not even be in the rotation.
That's right, that's right. Okay, the other guy, I think this is an important game, not in the sense that he's been playing poorly. If actually, much to the contrary, he's been great as of late. Is Con Knipple. I think Duke's gonna need a little bit extra from him in the same way you talked about. You know, we inbound the ball to Cooper, we break the press. I think Khan is going to be, more involved on the ball this game, which will take him away from a little bit, of his off-ball action that he's been able to get some nice looks from three the past, handful of games. But it will open up the fact that he can certainly pass. We all know that out of the pick and roll and either find Mal or kick out to a shooter, whether that's Gillis or Evans or Flack. So I think Khan being on the ball more is something, another thing I'm going to be watching out for in this matchup versus Florida State.
I think we're home. I think that matters. I think, having two players, we've gotten used to Malik being out at times during the course of the year. Proctor being out is, any given night could be his turn for 20. And his defense is through the roof this year. I think there will be a sense, certainly among Flag and on Khan, that they've got to shoulder the burden. This is going to be a really interesting test because Flag will feel the pressure and say, I got to take it all on myself. But no, he doesn't. And Will Khan, in his new style of being aggressive to the basket against a big team, does he get frustrated? And then he starts hoisting threes. And if he's in rhythm, great. If he's not so great. Evans, now with a smaller rotation, it's going to be easier to say, well, if Evans gets the ball, just stick your hand out at his stomach, and because Evans is starting that motion right from there, and that's how you would defend him. You wouldn't let him get into the motion, so you'd be up on him right away with a hand extended. So there's a lot there, but we will win, and this is going to kind of be the flow for this game. The Wake Forest game could be a little tougher. I still don't think we should bring either guy, Malik Brown, who may not be able to at all, or Proctor to come back yet. And then even if, it pains me to say, we have to finish the season at UNC without the two of them, I still think the smart move is rest them for as long as you can. And even in ACC play, we get a double bye, I think. But that it's you play every night in the tournament, so that's a matter of days. And so, depending on their injuries, you're going to have a tough call on how important is it to win the ACC, because you're going to pick up another 1, 2, 3, at least another 4 wins. But if you lose to Clemson or Louisville, does it jeopardize the thing that we've been talking about that we won so badly, the 2 or 3 number 1 seed? And I guess it depends on how other teams finish. That's all. You're saying it won't matter. If it really does.
It's the teams you mentioned why it won't matter. If we lose to Clemson or Louisville, especially if Proctor and Brown are out, I think we'll be just fine. But if we lose to I don't know, throwing out a name, um, Georgia Tech, let's just say, in the first game of the ACC tournament, that could hurt us.
I think that's possible. My feeling is this team was built to win the national championship. And in order to do that, we may have to take a loss here or there and be able to get Malik Brown and Therese Proctor back for that run. And that to me is the most important thing. I mean, you get another loss in the ACC or something. Okay.
Right. It's small potatoes. Yeah, and I mean, like, we've Gangba has done a relatively effective job. We can't replace what Malik Brown does with his disruption, but he's done a good job of filling in and just being the best, Gangba that he can be. And I think the same thing has to be said, for Foster and the increased minutes for Evans. Like, they can't be Proctor. Like, we're not going to get.
No.
It just, Proctor's been so good this year for Duke, and you can't really replace him. And so those guys.
Although the Isaiah Evans that's emerging, which is why they may start him, has him playing well on both sides of the court. His defense has been getting better, but it's nowhere near Tyrese Proctor's. And his offense is completely streaky, and that ability to get to the basket that Proctor can do as well. So you're right that the combination of Evans and uh, Foster, boy. The other thing is, just when I gave up in our broadcast on Foster was the night that he got a nice 10 points from, and he's done it 3 times now. Maybe his confidence level is growing. And originally it was Coach Shire's plan to start him. And maybe I'm wrong on all counts, and he starts Foster because it doesn't really matter.
I think you might be onto something. I mean, almost half an hour in, we got to a good idea. But I wonder if you're right, because it's kind of like some NBA teams, like if a starter's out, with your point on Evans, right? You want to keep him same routine. You don't want to change things up. Mason Gillis, right? You may want to keep him in the same routine. So instead of moving around, a couple of guys, you take Foster and you say, all right, instead of garbage time, you're started. You're going to be, and he's not going to be the point guard either, which is very interesting because it's Sion. Sion's still the point guard, but you're going to play off the ball, which I think helps Foster. And let's see what you got. And he plays the first segment, and if he does well, he keeps playing. I mean, actually, I don't even know if it matters how well he does. Evans is going to come in anyways. So I think you're onto something here. Start Foster. Evans comes in as your sixth man after the first segment, and you roll from there. And depending on how well those guys are playing, they either stick to 8 guys or they go to 9, like you said, and Harris gets 10 minutes. So I think there's options for Coach Shire, which is nice considering we're now down two players and we're still talking about a potential 9-man rotation.
It is. The team was always so deep that I think it can withstand this for the kind of games we have until we get to Louisville or Clemson in the ACC, and depending on where the draw is in March Madness and who we're matching up. Although I still think the first weekend, probably we can get out of it. I'd like to have certainly Tyrese Proctor back by then. which is a couple of weeks, which sounds about right concerning Shire. It was a bad bone bruise, is what I'm gathering. So the only other point I'll say is I had made a point in that debate where I kind of would love to have Flag for another year. But if this is one of those nights, or actually with the duration of the games with both um, Malik Brown and Therese Proctor, that you could say to Cooper Flag, the challenge is on. And you need to step up and play with two of our guys down. And, let's see what happens. I think it's going to be magical.
That's a good word. Yeah. I mean, it'll be a lot of fun to find out. That's for sure. And I guess the other thing I want to say is ideal world. I think if we could get Malik and Proctor back for that first game of March Madness, I think that would be a good opponent for them to come back for. Because that first game, Duke's probably going to be a 1 seed. You're playing in a 16. Knock on wood, everything should go okay. As of the past handful of years, that hasn't been quite as much of a lock as it has been in the past. But
they don't. But to your point, I think I know where you're going. They don't have to give us as many minutes as they normally would, and it would give them game time, and then get through that first weekend, and then they got another, 6 days off.
Yeah, 4 days or so. Exactly. So that's why I was thinking that. All right. Score prediction. Yes. All right. I think last time you went first, so I'll go first. Before I go, make sure you guys drop in the comments your score predictions for this game against Florida State. I'm going to go with Duke winning 82-72. I think I'm banking on Ewan playing in this game. I think it will be a bit closer than the previous. I mean, I don't think Duke's been within 20 points since that Clemson game, so I think this will be the first time they're under that 20-point mark.
All right, and I have it closer than that. You have a 10-point spread. I have it 79 Duke, 74. And
wow.
It'll be, it's going to be closer than we want, but based on the tempo and the size of Florida State and the need, they could go on a little run, and I don't think they can sneak in, but you never know. They could go on a run, maybe have a good ACC tournament. This is a major win for them. So I think they're going to pull out all the stops, but I think we win 79-74.
Fair. All right. Let us know what you guys think about this game against Florida State in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Drop a like. It helps us grow the channel. And share it with all of your basketball friends. We will see you guys post-game after Duke versus Florida State Saturday night, somewhere around 9:05 to 9:15 Eastern Time. Until then, peace.